Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
Gur maigad ceann cóirle. Agus is fiad ré le thar na blianta gur chaith rialtas Fianna Fáil agus Fine Gael go háit le ceantra tuaithe ar fud an Stáit agus léiríonn an dóil lebhseil sibh an storm is déanaí an cais Oireach ach le rudaí dhéanú níos measa tá na budí móras an bord solar lechtras in isise ré go gaithí greagaí na tíre seo daoine bhí foice gan lechtras go gaithí siad bilí níos airde I dhéal chun an dámaiste a chóirú. So caiithir stop a thurla seo a tháinaiste. Tánaiste, it's fair to say that down throughout the years both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael governments have successively gave a raw deal to rural Ireland. At times, rural communities have been treated as almost second-class citizens. And with the formation of your most recent government, we see the sidelining of rural Ireland and the West continues with just one minister from all of Connacht Ulster and no minister for the border counties at all. So well done. Yourself and Micheál Martin have managed to pull off together perhaps the most East Coast-centric government ever. Now, rural people are well used to getting the cold shoulder from the government, but in the aftermath of the most recent storm, we've seen this disrespect and marginalisation in its sharpest, most disastrous form. The government's sluggish and shoddy response to the devastation and the hardship that was caused by the storm in rural Ireland says it all. Your failure to treat it as a national crisis meant communities were left with significant difficulties just to meet basic needs. And that was to be seen right across rural Ireland. So many experienced real isolation in the absence of power, water, light, heat and telecommunications. And apart from the heroic efforts of ordinary workers, community activists and those in our local authorities and utility companies, the reality is that most communities had to fend for themselves as the government failed to grasp the severity of the situation. And the reason we see this slack response from government is because rural communities and those who live there simply don't matter in the eyes of this government. That sense of abandonment and anger is very real. And now, to add insult to injury, we have the top brass of the ESB effectively bullying those who suffered the most. It beggars belief that the CEO of the ESB came out and said that its customers would have to foot the bill for damage to the network caused by the storm. This is ahead of a company that made profits of €898 million in 2023, telling the people in rural Ireland, many of them who went without electricity for 2 weeks, that they have to cough up in the form of higher bills. What planet is he living on? And let me be clear, it is the ESB who should be compensating customers for the amount of time that they went without power. And to fund the repair of the network, its first port of call needs to be the massive profits that the ESB have accumulated of ripping off customers with some of the highest electricity prices in the EU for the last number of years. And Taoiseach, people are really angry about this. The top brass of the ESB need a wake-up call, and the people are asking, why isn't the government giving it to them? Clearly, the head honchos at the ESB are not prepared to let a good crisis go to waste in boosting profits. So the government needs to come off the bench in this, Taoiseach. You need to get on the pitch. You need to start protecting people from the impacts of this storm and making sure that the storm is not used as an excuse by ESB to gouge customers even further. So what does that mean? It means hauling in the ESB senior management. It means sitting them down and making it very clear to them that those whose lives have been rocked by the storm are not the people who are going to be forced to fork out in order to cover up the failures and mismanagement of the ESB in the first instance. And indeed, ESB should be compensating those customers who was left without electricity, in many cases, some for up to 2 weeks.
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach, to respond.
Thanks very much, Ceann Comhairle, and thank you to Deputy Doherty for raising this important question. There's no doubt this storm has caused significant chaos and significant hardship in many parts of this country, but the Deputy is also right, disproportionately so in the west and northwest of the country. And I think we're all collectively relieved in Ireland, most particularly those communities, that the power is finally back. And the Trojan work, and I know you'll join me in this, the Trojan work that's been carried out by ESB workers on the front line, and indeed others, local authority workers, Uisce Éireann workers and others, in assisting people, has been very important, and we should commend and thank them for that. And I want to say that. I do want to make one point, and I said this last week. I do think the comments of the Chief Executive of the ESB made in perhaps a moment of haste or error, were insensitive, and I welcome the fact. That he was big enough and decent enough to come out and acknowledge that himself and apologise for the insensitivity of those comments. I think that's important in public life. Any of us can say something in error or say something that's insensitive, and it's important to put your hands up after and say that could have been said in a much better way. We'll come back and debate on another day, perhaps, the ministerial presence in the West and the North West. And I won't, in the interest of time, name all my colleagues who serve with diligence in a variety of roles in government. I'll come back to that another day, because I don't think we should actually make the storm a point of political division. In fact, what I've seen over the last period of time, over the last number of weeks, is this government work with people the length and breadth of Ireland. Indeed, Sinn Féin ministers were on to me looking for assistance from our government to help with the situation in terms of the storm in Northern Ireland as well, because this wasn't a storm the storm wasn't partisan, by the way. This was a storm that involved everybody of all political persuasions who held office, putting their shoulder to the wheel, working with agencies and working with communities in the interest of trying to keep people safe. And I must say, a lot was done right. We have to be very conscious of the fact that because there was that red weather warning alert, lives were definitely saved in Ireland. And of course, I think, in saying that, I think and acknowledge the loss of the life of Casper Dudek in your own constituency. Of course I do. But the warning system worked. What we do need to get much better at, Deputy, is preparedness and resilience at a community level. And I think, if we're being honest with each other, there are parts of the country, even counties that were badly affected. There were some badly affected counties that did better than others, perhaps, in being prepared at that local level, and having access to generators and having their local management plans. And certainly, as part of the government review that we'll kick off shortly, we will need, I think, to look at what needs to be done at that local level to build up preparedness. Today, the Taoiseach and myself have convened a meeting of relevant government ministers to begin to look at exactly that. How do we better prepare for the next storm? How do we better prepare for more adverse weather conditions in the future? I would just say, on the financial side, because you referenced obviously the financial situation, we did indeed, a minister from the West in Derek Calleary did lead with the government's humanitarian assistance scheme, where we did provide significant financial assistance to many thousands of people to try and help them in a desperately difficult situation. A situation where the lights weren't on, a situation where people were trying to still feed and mind children and older people and the care needs, and a lot was done in relation to that. There's a lot of work to be done in regards to this. I'm very clear too that the ESB shouldn't and won't be gouging any customers in relation to this. They do have significant resources. Government intends to also invest significant resources in improving infrastructure. And we all now, every state agency, commercial and otherwise, every government department and every local authority needs to now take the lessons of this storm and be more prepared for future weather events.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy.
It's not a case of whether the ESB will be gouging them in the future. The ESB have been gouging customers for years. People in your constituency, my constituency, right across the state, pay amongst the highest electricity costs in Europe. The ESB made profits, remember, last 2013, the last calendar year we have, of €898 million. This is a significant amount of profits. And in the first 18 months, €1.3 billion has been transferred by individuals paying their electricity bills to the ESB. There is serious amounts of costs in terms of ESB bills, not in terms of running costs and standing charges. And the CEO of ESB said his comments were insensitive, but he hasn't ruled out that in 2026 that these costs will be borne by customers. And what I'm saying to you is, I'm asking you to stand up for people who were left without electricity for weeks on end, and to make it clear to the ESB top brass that there will be no increases as a result of this here. And not only that, that we expect the ESB to compensate people. Remember, the ESB, during the term of your last government, were fined €37 million for the failures in supply. They need to start compensating people, and they need to show some humility. So I'm asking you, will you call in the top brass of the ESB, and will you make those points to them?
Well, thanks very much, Deputy Doherty. And the long and the short answer is yes, we will be engaging with the ESB, and we will, in line with our programme for government commitment, be engaging on the issue of energy costs overall. Now, I can point to a number of measures, Ceann Comhairle, that the last government and indeed that this current government have and will be taking in relation to assisting people with their energy costs. You'll remember, in the time of the last government, a number of measures were taken to assist people in the here and now with the cost of the bills around energy credits. And you'll know that they were welcomed by your own constituents and mine and people right across the country too. You'll know that in the programme for government, we've also made commitments in relation to keeping that lower rate of VAT on energy bills as well, and providing people with that certainty for the period of time ahead. So these are the practical measures that we're taking right now to assist people with bills that, yes, can be large and can make people feel financially insecure. And government will be having a conversation in the round with all state agencies and actors in relation to energy prices going forward, and we're happy to constructively engage on this.
Thank you, Taoiseach. We move.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.